Hi everybody, welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert, working with educational institutions and companies, helping them support their family wellbeing challenges. And as you know, every week I interview different experts who make a difference. And today I'm super excited after a very long wait to be interviewing Lynsay. Hi Lynsay, thank you so much for coming.
Hi Jasmine, it is a pleasure. Thank you for making this happen.
No, thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, of course. So my name is Lynsay Kilbane, and I spent 15 years as a professional nanny working for families across the globe. And I have since retired from nannying and set up a professional nanny agency and domestic staffing agency. I'm based here in the UAE, and we serve the GCC region and global as well.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. And I have to say, we've had so many questions and comments already about this topic, because I think it's a really hot topic, especially here in the UAE. But so your topic you chose today is raising standards, why nannies should be trained professionals. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and why you chose it for today?
So this is a topic that is really, I'm very passionate about. Being a nanny myself, and being inside households, raising children, for various families. When I moved to the UAE, and it's across this GCC region, I noticed that everybody here has a nanny. The term nanny here is not the same. It doesn't have the same meaning as in the UK, for example. Here we are employing unskilled domestic workers and labeling them nannies, and then parents are becoming very frustrated because they, what they're getting from their nannies isn't great. But in their defense, there is no training, there are no standards, and that really needs to be changed, I think, the expectation and the gap between skilled and unskilled nannies.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience then as a nanny, and how your training, what training you had and how it helped you with all of the families that you worked with first?
So I am actually controversially not, I don't hold a qualification in childcare, let's say like a cash qualification. But I have many others. So I'm sleep trained. I am an NLP children's practitioner. I've studied a lot of different things around childcare, and I've had a lot of experience. Obviously, first aid trained. There are a lot of things. So in my experience, I'm not even recommending that your nanny needs to go to college or university to have training, but I think they should have bare minimums, and they should have a passion behind what they're doing and an understanding behind what they are doing. Because when I've worked in households before, we have multiple nannies, let's say, and sometimes I can look at their work and just think, why are you doing that? I don't know why you're doing that. And I ask them, and they will say, I don't know why I'm doing that either. And when I've been in these...
What kind of things? Sorry.
For example, when a child is, let's say, having a tantrum, we have a toddler, 2-3-year-old, they're having a tantrum, developmentally very normal. And the way that the nanny might handle that is interesting. They may get very angry with the child. They may move the child away. They may do many different things. And all it really takes is to just spend some time researching, finding out, learning on why that happens. What is the build up to a tantrum? A tantrum is not one thing. There are many steps before the tantrum, right? So if we can understand the triggers beforehand and look at it holistically, like sleep, nutrition, again, this is something else I think that all nannies should be very aware of. Then we can maybe even prevent the tantrum, or when it's happening, we can use tools and techniques which are positive, that will not affect the children in a negative way, for example.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, doesn't it, really? Because when you think about it, in any profession, if you don't have the key tools and techniques to make your life easier and whoever's around you easier, well, you're probably making everything else harder, aren't you? You're making your life harder. It sounds like you're saying if you're not if you don't have the right skills as a nanny, you'll probably make your job difficult. The child's life may be more difficult. So it's actually, sounds like it's in everybody's best interest to learn these skills.
Definitely, I 100% agree. And also the family and the parents, because, you know, a nanny is not just responsible for the health and well-being of a child, but also they really do impact the child's life trajectory, because the attachment that they learn. So nanny is teaching subconsciously or consciously attachment, how children trust, you know, all of these different things, how they process the world. That is what you are teaching at all times, because children copy, particularly when we're working with children 0 to 5. I mean, these are the most crucial years of a human being's life. And when you look at it in that way, actually, it's not just, oh, let's hire a babysitter to just watch the baby and watch the child. Actually, when you think, okay, well, they impact every area, even language, for example. If you have a nanny that has, for example, a Birmingham accent from the UK, the child will pick up that accent. And I have been to homes before, and I can guess where the previous nanny was from. So
yeah,
things like that just really are important.
what would you say are the minimum? I know you have mentioned some skills, but what would you say are the minimum skills that a nanny should have before they start working in a family?
So I would say first aid, pediatric first aid should be.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I really would love this to be a requirement for anybody working with children in any setting. And sadly, it's not when you're talking about homes. God forbid something should ever happen. And I believe strongly in that. I think you should have a good understanding of nutrition. Because when you look at different countries, okay, and then you're coming into a household that's maybe not the same culturally, you need to have the basic nutrition. You need to know about protein. You need to know that it's protein first. Food servings also, again, are so different across the world. So we should be basing it on the child's age and stage. And there are a lot of tips and tricks you can kind of just learn even online about these things. Sleep also, I think it's really important to understand sleep. There are so many amazing sleep courses out there. So I would say that these are the 3 top, because then we can look holistically, right? Health, nutrition, and sleep. And then if you would like to do a professional course, depending on the age of the child, you could do an EYFS course, which teaches you about, the early years. Montessori, if that's your interest or the family you're working for, you could do a course on Montessori learning, which is fascinating. Or you could go the traditional route and get a cash level 2 or level 3, which can also now be completed online around the world.
Oh, I love that. And I love what you're saying as well, because it sounds like you're saying it's well-being first. Like the 3 things you mentioned are all connected with our well-being. I mean, I know that's what I do. I mean, I think, yeah, well-being first. If you don't have that, then all the other things are probably not going to fall into place. But we've got a question from Sarah on Instagram. Hi, Sarah, how are you doing? She says, and you've kind of mentioned a bit about this, what risks do you think come with hiring an untrained nanny?
There are lots. For example, if your nanny doesn't have the correct training and there's medication involved, they could be wrong medication. Also, again, culturally, in some cultures, medication for one symptom is completely different to another, and as well, household to household, it's very different. So that could be, quite severe consequence. Also, the first aid training when you're out and about, the child gets a sting from an insect. What cream do you put on? What's the procedure? What about a cut on their leg? Also, safeguarding. Have you reported that? Did your 3-year-old charge fall over today? Maybe they fell over as they got out of the car, or they were running and fell and bumped their head. Have you reported that? Do you know the consequences, potential consequences of not reporting that? Perhaps you clock off, and at night the child starts to become, delirious or strange, and the parents have not been told. That could be quite severe. allergies as well, super important. And also, you know, you're teaching children emotional regulation. And if you're hiring somebody who gets angry very quickly, is triggered quickly, your child will soon be showing those traits.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And have you had any, I know you don't have to, you know, say any details or anything like that, but have you had experiences with your work now of nannies who, you know, the problems that have occurred because of they haven't had the right training and qualifications?
Yes,
Yeah,
I mean, there are lots of stories that I won't go into, but this is another reason why I feel so passionate about this topic, particularly in this part of the world, when I see with my own eyes. I remember when the reason I started my business, there was a moment that I will always remember. I was in an apartment tower at the bottom in the reception, and there were two nannies who had a child each from different families, and they were playing on the floor in a unfinished concrete section of the building on their hands and knees. They had a bag of crisps or chips open. They were crawling and eating, and one of the nannies had propped up their phone, so they were watching, I don't know, Cocomelon or some rubbish on TV whilst they were chatting. And I was really disgusted and horrified and hurt for the parents that I'm sure don't know that that's going on downstairs. You know, what is the development when their children are in this dingy, dirty, dangerous area eating junk food, watching mindless TV, when really they should be with a nanny who is interacting with them, speaking, not just with your words and your vocab, but also your expression. This is how we develop children's language, social and emotional skills.
Oh, I love what you're saying as well, because it's not just about, of course, it's important for safety and everything else, but it's also like what I hear you're saying is like the micro habits that children are picking up, yes. and that's everything as well, isn't it? You know, yeah. what they do every day and how they spend their time and who they become. Yeah, and those things you don't see straight away, do you? Like the parents might not notice what's happening straight away because they kind of creep up, don't they, those things, which are actually could be more serious.
Yeah, I can give you a good example, actually. I'm just thinking back to many years ago. I had a child who, when I came to him, he had speech issues, like delay, and we couldn't really understand his words. His pronunciation wasn't that good. As a nanny, you come to know what they mean whenever they talk. Okay, it sounds like gibberish to somebody else, but you know what they mean. Sure. And I went through speech therapy with him and worked very closely with the therapist. She said, who was caring for him between these particular ages? And so I spoke with mom, and we investigated, and they had a nanny that mom had employed who was a babysitter, untrained, and it was her. And the speech therapist said he's missing these specific sounds which are developed at that age, which means that he was not being spoken to enough, he was not being interacted with enough. And that was so sad. And working parents, they left the house super early in the morning, came home at bedtime. It's critical. The time with nanny was critical, and it impacted him in a negative way.
That's really, that is sad, isn't it? And like, that's like one of those examples that you were saying, and you don't realize until, I mean, it's not too late, but I guess what happened with him in the end? So you helped him, and it was okay.
We worked very closely with the speech therapist. Every day we were practicing the exercises that they taught us, and he came on leaps and bounds, and no issues. But yeah, it leaves gaps that you have to repair. Well, hopefully you repair at some point, because sometimes maybe they will just be missed, or it's too late.
Exactly, and these things can be avoided. They can actually. Children don't need to have to go through all of these things. No, I think it's really important as well, because as you said as well, the child can spend hours and hours with the nanny, like hours. Sometimes parents are away, they're not even in the country sometimes, and the nanny is literally the parent for the whole time. So I think, So where would you say we can start with all of this then? Because it seems as we both know, there's a lot of nannies who don't have these skills. So what would you say would be the first step?
I would say, you know, if you're using an agency, then agency should be very transparent with and clear with parent and nanny, you know, giving recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you are the parent employing a nanny, you need to ask questions. You know, ask for if they have qualifications, then get the certificates, but then also ask questions about, you know, about sleep, about nutrition, basic questions that you think everybody knows, but actually when you ask them, you'll find not everybody knows that. You can start there and then invest in your nanny. I think great nannies, really one of the main things is energy in a house, right? So if you click with a nanny, you trust her and there's this energy about her, then it's a great hire, but she might not be skilled. So then invest, buy her books, buy her memberships to online programs, get nanny trainers to come in. That's a service that we offer. We have trained qualified nannies go into houses and assess this current situation and then put in a plan to kind of upskill the entire household across the board. You know, sign her up to courses. There are so many things. Do the basics, the first aid, the kind of emergency training. What is the protocol? I like to create nanny handbooks, so every family has a nanny should have a nanny handbook. And it sounds ridiculous and you might not get around to doing it. It's so important. Do they know which doctor to call if there's an emergency and you're in a meeting and they can't get hold of you? Do they know who to call? Which doctor? Do they have grandparents' phone numbers just in case, again, of emergency? You know, what's the, you know, are there certain things about the house that they need to know? Imagine an alarm is going off. Again, they can't get hold of you. What's the procedure? You know, do you have a first aid kit in your house? All of these different things.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I absolutely, yeah. What you're saying, I think it just seems so logical to have a nanny handbook. Like now I would be surprised if households don't have one, because you could even make, of course, there's professionals like you who can really support with that, but even a family could probably make that themselves as well.
Absolutely,
You know?
because if you were to start a job in an office or in any other environment, there would be an onboarding process.
Yeah.
And what I find with hiring nannies is there is no onboarding process. We just leave our children.
Unbelievable.
These people, you know, which is astounding when you think about it like that.
Oh yeah, especially when it's one of the most important jobs. Just say hi to everyone who's joined. Hi, Suzanne, how are you doing? And Neelam, hi Neelam. She says, hi, Jasmine and Lynsay. I'm a nanny of 10 years in London. I'm relocating to Dubai next week. I'm searching for nanny roles. Please, can you point me in the right direction?
Yes. The agency you need to go to is the Mama Consultancy, and ask for me and I will connect with you and see if we can get you something. We're always looking for these British trained, experienced nannies to come over to this market. I love placing professional nannies here.
Yeah, no, brilliant, brilliant. I guess some families probably think, you know, they don't want to hire a trained nanny because it would be more expensive. But what you're saying, though, they can help train the nanny themselves.
Exactly, because, you know, realistically, a professional nanny is not in everybody's budget, but there are ways around to upskill what you do have. And what I don't like to see is parents, often I see in groups complaining, I've had 6 nannies now, it's just never working out. And I think, okay, basic questions. What's the onboarding process? You know, what are your expectations? Because you have to be realistic. You know, are you asking too much?
Yeah. And how much are you paying?
And how much are you paying? Also, how much are you paying?
I know. Sometimes I'm shocked when you know, the expectations and the salary, it doesn't always align. Right, we've got another question here. Okay, this is from Tara. Hi, Tara, how are you doing? She says, what changes would you like to see in the childcare industry in the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a great question. I would like to see more professional nannies on the market. So that's really going to start with this training and upskilling. I would like to see nannies staying in jobs for a longer period. For me, as an agency owner, if you stay for a year or less, it's a red flag. Of course, there are some circumstances where, you know, maybe people move, but longevity in roles, that's
How long is like
2 years. Because again, you're coming into a child's life, they form an attachment with you, and then you leave, which is fine, and it's a good opportunity for you to teach positive positive goodbyes, positive like coming and goings, but it could be quite painful for children to lose their nannies, their main carer.
That's true. That's true. Neelam says, I've joined the agency but not received any confirmation, even applied jobs. LinkedIn.
Perfect. Okay, well, Neelam, I will look at your profile when I get off here. If we have a job that fits your profile, then you get contacted, but if not, then you won't. Also, here I have to say, if for British nannies or Western nannies coming over from the UK, the shift here is 6 days a week typically, which is
it? Oh, yeah.
So lots of nannies are moving over quite recently and wanting 5 day a week jobs, which is fine, but for my clients particularly, we're still looking at 6 days a week. Expats will give you 5 days, but I don't typically get many of those roles. My clients want 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, so difficult.
Right. Okay. So I guess yeah. It seems exactly what you're saying as well is communication. Everything needs to be clear, doesn't it? When you have that clarity at the beginning, the nanny knows what's expected of them. They know what they're doing. They've had the support. The parents are doing what they can as well. I think it's so. Who's responsible? Both, would you say, parents and the nanny?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the agency, you know, everybody involved has to take responsibility. You know, make it a positive thing. Let's empower our nannies and our children and our families. Let's really add value. Nannies can be absolutely fantastic and a blessing, and many families across the world couldn't function without nannies. So, you know, let's really respect them and upskill and empower nannies.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much, Lynsay. We're running out of time. Is there anything else you want to say that you feel is important about this topic?
I think we've touched on quite a lot, I think.
We have. Neelam says expected salary. Or does it depend?
It depends. How long is a piece of string? It depends on the client situation, you know, so many things. How niche the job is as well, because sometimes I get very specific requests for nannies. So I'll have a list of requirements, which I cannot always share. Languages, passports, you know, all skill sets, parenting styles, all of these things have to match up. So it really, really depends, honestly.
It's not a one size. It all depends. No, thank you for that. Yeah. So no, thank you so much, Lynsay. I've learned a lot from this conversation, and I love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely amazing, and it's such important work. And I think, like you said, yeah, empower nannies. Nannies will empower the children. The parents will be happy. It's just a win-win for everybody, isn't it? Really.
Yes, exactly.
And how can people find you?
So they can find the business. We are themamaconsultancy.com, or you can find us on all the socials. My name is Lynsay Kilbane. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and all those good things.
Amazing. And can you put all of those links on the post so people can just click on them? But so what, any final takeaways before we go? Got a few seconds left.
I think that's it, to be honest. I want to thank you, Jasmine, so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and it's so nice to speak to somebody who sees, you know, the good and wants to do good in the world.
No, thank you so much, Lynsay. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you everybody for joining. If you have any questions about nannies, training, jobs, or anything like that, please message Lynsay directly. or you can leave a comment on the post or a question, and either of us will get back to you. But thank you so much, Lynsay. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you, everybody. I will see you next week with another expert. Oh, she's gone.